Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike, and I have another review for you. One that is near and dear to my heart, more nostalgic, something I grew up with this. But this is Image Comics, the Maxx #2. It is written and drawn by Sam Kieth. This was my love in the 90s, when Image first started. I've mentioned this before. I kind of went the other way with Image. I already had enough superheroes in my life, so I kind of stayed away from Wetworks and Wildcat and that kind of stuff. It's not that I didn't read it, but I just didn't get heavily invested in it. I went more the Maxx, the Pit, and Spawn, and Savage Dragon, those titles, that kind of thing. But out of those titles, the Maxx is definitely my favorite. I've never actually gotten to read the whole series, so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do, and finding issues here and there as I go. But we are jumping the first issue. It's just basically you're meeting the Maxx. That the story takes place in both the Australian outback and I think it takes place in LA. Don't quote me on that. But we do see that Julie, the Max's friend, has been kidnapped by somebody, and also in the other world that she, as you can see here, because Maxx exists in both worlds, he looks similar in both worlds, but he gains like the headdress when he's in the outback. Also, Julie turns into the Jungle Queen, so it is also like, a quest to find Julie and the Jungle Queen, with both kind of worlds intermingling. They do start out with a prologue with Julie, and basically she is, kind of weighing herself and trying to lose weight, better her life kind of thing, and she goes for a snack while she's weighing herself, and she sees an Iz, or a Ziz. But basically it is when they kidnap her, a bunch of Zizzes grab her. We do see that Ziz exist on both planes, the Australian outback, like the dream world, and in the real world. And in the dream world they're all white, in the real world they're all black. It is, after the prologue kind of gets done, we jump back to where the last issue left off, and we were with the Maxx and Mr. Gone, and we were meeting Mr. Gone for the first time, and they were kind of about to tussle. Right here we are catching up with just this random guy who's talking about his life and how nothing ever goes on in his life. He doesn't realize it, but you could see at the top of the carport that the Maxx and Mr. Gone are fighting up there, and there are some Zzz falling to the ground, splatting, as you can see over here. But he's continually talking about no matter what's going on in his life, and he even mentions some of his friends having interesting lives, but he just, nothing ever happens in his life. He does notice this car that has several grandmothers in it, that then they all look not only alike, but they all resemble his grandmother, which he finds a little odd. Then as he's kind of taking in that note, he does notice that all around the gas station that there is a curtain that is being released, and he kind of thinks he tripped some button. It is Mr. Gone, and it's his like he has control of these shadow things, as well as the Is, or whatever they are. But he does try to pull the curtain, trying to make it go back up, and it does go back up, but it's really Mr. Gone fighting the Maxx, and it's just because he barrels down to the hood of the car, smashing into it, and the cape just pulls forward. The guy, realizing now that it is two guys, kind of supervillain villain type situation, fighting for their lives, and he's like, oh God. It's basically this fight between Mr. Gone and Maxx, and Mr. Gone is talking to Maxx while they are fighting, telling him that he doesn't really remember anything from before about the outback, or the present world. He even mentions that he had a name, calling Briere Lapin supposedly is his real name. It is spelled really weird, so I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's apostrophe ER, and then Lappin, Lappin. It's like the Ziz. Their names are spelled weird. It's like exclamation point ESE. But eventually during the fight, Mr. Gon does end up having a moment where he's able to pull a gun, threatening the Maxx, and the Maxx not so threatened of the gun. And Mr. Gon does see that in the car there is a woman present, grabs her as a hostage, and we get one of the best scenes in the book, because the Maxx, he isn't faltered by this hostage situation, and instantly kills the girl with his massive claw fist things, in such a fashion it kind of takes Mr. Gon like out of wax. He can't believe that the Maxx not only just killed an innocent girl to get to Mr. Gon, but it kind of like totally sidesteps him, where he stops fighting. Eventually he does end up shooting the Maxx in the leg, and he ends up running off. The guy that was standing there the whole time is kind of astounded and is amazed by the Maxx, but kind of mentioned that he was amazed that the Maxx realized that the girl was a dummy, a CPR dummy, and wasn't fooled by the bad guy, and the Maxx just saying that was a dummy. Yeah, it was a dummy. But we do see that those grandmothers that we saw earlier do activate, and they kind of jump all over the Maxx because they are the Ziz, and we do kind of learn something about the Ziz, that in this world, they are white in the Outback dream world, but in this world they turn black. But not only that, but they gain the massive rows of teeth, and they become meat eaters in the real world. But there is this other kind of magic that sticks with them that unless you know about them, you can't really see them. Like the guy had seen a whole bunch of grandmothers. It's just kind of like a magical charm that these Ziz have around them, that if you don't know about them, they just appear like somebody in your life that you don't see that often, but you still recognize them, kind of thing. It's not going to be somebody you see all the time, but like in this situation, it was this guy's grandmother that he didn't see quite often. We do see that these is chomping all over the Maxx, and Maxx, already dealing with the gunshot, is in pretty bad shape, not necessarily from the gunshot, but from the whole fight. These is chomping on him, and eventually he does kind of jump into a dumpster, and he ends up just passing out, with these is still biting and clinging on to him. We do see that quickly after he falls asleep that Mr. Gon did not disappear as he appeared to do, and he does come back, and these is appears to be like frozen. It's kind of weird, but he does take these is off of the Maxx, and he kind of uses them as like locks, where he puts the Ziz on he basically locks him in that dumpster using the Ziz. It's really weird. But I guess since the Maxx is inactive in this world, maybe they go inactive too. They do jump over to the Maxx in the Outback world, and he is he thinks he is walking up on the Jungle Queen and has finally found her, but he quickly finds out that this might not be the Jungle Queen, because she sounds different, looks different, and it looks like her, but it's more like an evil version or a twisted version of her. We jump back to the real world with Mr. Gon and it looks like his apartment, and he's basically, talking and telling the story about how, he's set up, and how he kind of explains about the Ziz and why he's set up where he is, and it happens to be in a costume shop, so these Ziz can just wear, random costumes, and how convenient it was. And we also see Julie for the first time since she's been kidnapped, and she is in a very, he has her tied up in a bondage type of way. She even goes to the point that, that he has problem, with women, and this is some type of sick fantasy that, the reason he's got her all tied up like that in the costume, and and he basically states that she's right, that he doesn't like women and stuff like that, especially women that claim to be like feminists but yet dress a certain way, then attack men for looking at them while they're dressed like that kind of thing. And it's just this back and forth about, you know, his ideas, and then, you know, her stating that, well, she is a feminist and she believes in the power of a woman. She should still be dressed, you know, could dress any way she wants to, kind of thing. But it is a back and forth about, you know, their ideas and this and that. The whole while he is kind of doing this mad villain talk, you know, talking about his plans and what he's going to do as far as the torture part, she kind of finds a tooth that one of the had dropped, and you know, as sharp as their teeth is, realizes that she can use it to escape cutting the ropes, and eventually hoping to use it as a weapon, which we see here. She does end up slowly but surely, this guy talks enough, and she snaps through the restraints without him noticing, and by this page she has quickly snuck up behind him, and she uses that tooth to you know, and get him at the throat. We do see this scene with the opposite version of Julie, the kind of evil version, and it was just this mention the whole time where the only thing she was talking about was this doll that was, you know, talking bad, and then she needed to brush the doll's hair until the doll's head fell off, and as soon as Julie kind of you know, got the guy by the neck, the doll's head fell off, kind of like in unison, mimicking both realities, kind of thing. We do see that the Maxx has finally woken up and is a little better than he was when he went to sleep. He has quickly killed the that were still chewing on him when he woke up. The ones that were still attached to him, and he does kill the ones that were attached to the dumpster and the other thing. But basically stating he is on the prowl looking for Mr. Gone, and still looking for Julie and the Jungle Queen, kind of thing. And that's where this issue leaves off. There is a lot of you know, older articles about the fans hyping about the Maxx, you know, to Sam back in the day, and they're always great reads, you know, especially the comments back from Sam Kieth and stuff like that about his project, because this is a second issue. You know, this had just gotten started, and he wasn't even sure how big it was going to be, that kind of thing. But again, I'm a huge fan of Sam Kieth's art, specifically in this book. But I've always loved the Maxx, and I've wanted to read it for a long time, so that's kind of why I'm doing this. But that is the Maxx issue number 2. Please like, comment, subscribe. You know, comment anything you want. You know, let me. Have you ever read this book? If you hadn't, did you like the art or the appeal, the story, kind of thing? Let me hear about it. But I'll be with you all in a little bit. All right. Bye.